Back here in Washington, we turn now to the White House Chief of Staff, Dennis McDonough. I'll just start. What is your reaction to what you just heard?
Well, I think that the most important thing is what Charlie said at the end, which is he said that Assad is clearly closely watching what is happening in Washington. You know, Bob, I've spent the last couple of weeks talking to dozens of members of Congress. To a person, they do not rebut or deny or negate the intelligence. So that tells us that we all believe that on August 21st, he used chemical weapons against his own people in what is the largest chemical weapons attack in nearly 3 decades. So the question then for Congress, and it's square on the table this week, is should there be consequences for somebody who has used these terrible weapons to gas and to kill more than 1,000 people, including hundreds of children, and what should those consequences be? The answer to this question is being closely followed, as Charlie said, in Damascus, but also in Tehran and among Lebanese Hezbollah and others. So it's important that Congress be a full partner in this effort and that they pass this resolution so that we can send a clear and very convincing message to somebody who clearly is not understanding his requirements to the international community.
Well, what you're saying is that he is just a liar.
What I'm saying is that he clearly is misleading. It does appear to me to be a lie. Every indication we have is that he and every member of Congress I've spoken to accepts the intelligence that they carried out this attack. And so what we need now is to communicate very clearly what is expected of him. And what is expected of him is to live up to the prohibition, now almost 100 years old, against using these dastardly weapons to gas women and children.
He said at one point in the interview, if the United States has the evidence, show the evidence.
Well, you've seen these terrible videos, Bob, and others have seen these terrible videos, and I hope that every member of Congress...
You're saying that's evidence enough.
I'm saying that I hope every member of Congress looks at those videos before he or she makes up his or her mind on how they're going to vote on this resolution. Because to hold him accountable for this terrible action, we need Congress to vote yes for that resolution.
The President's going to talk to the American people on Tuesday night. What can he say that he hasn't already said?
Well, I think it's most important that people hear directly from him. I think he's been saying this, and we want to make sure that the whole country is able to hear him, because undertaking an action using force, even targeted and limited force, no boots on the ground, cabined effort, even use of force of that nature is consequential. And so the President wants to make sure that the whole country hears him. And what he'll tell the country is what this is, which is targeted, limited, consequential force. He'll also tell the country what this is not. This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. This is not an extended air campaign like in Libya. This is a targeted effort, and it's reasonable and absolutely understandable for the American people, after the last 11, 12 years we've been through, to be asking tough questions, and we intend to answer them.
You say that the people who see the evidence, no one rebuts the evidence that you've shown them, yet there are a lot of people in both parties, as you well know, who are very much opposed to this. Why do you think that is? Is it politics? Is it they don't think it's effective? Because I have to tell you, I think that, you're losing support with every passing day. There's another indication every day that somebody else comes out against giving the President this authority.
Yeah, well, I think it's too early to jump to conclusions about who's where, because frankly, members have been in their states and in their districts and have not had a chance to see all that we are ready to brief them on. Those who have seen it are very, very compelled, as I've said to you. Now, the question becomes then, why is it that there's such opposition? I think it's understandable, Bob, which is that we have been through 11 or 12 years of tremendous sacrifice, and we are learning our lessons from that, and the President has learned our lessons from that. That's why what we're talking about here is targeted, limited operation with a very narrow objective. We're not talking about overturning a government. We're not talking about occupation. This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. We're talking about very consequential, targeted action to reinforce a prohibition against these weapons. You know, it's important to think here, Bob.
Could I just interrupt you?
Sure.
Isn't that what we always hear? that it's going to be a limited, Vietnam was going to be a limited situation. Iraq was going to be a limited situation. You say it's not Iraq, and I don't disagree with you. But isn't it very difficult once you go down the road? Isn't it difficult once you start down these roads? Then it's always, well, we need just a little bit more and a little bit more.
It is important to recognize that we need to be disciplined, to not allow the mission to creep and not allow ourselves to be pulled into the middle of this. And keeping Congress engaged will help ensure that we do that. But I also want to be clear, Bob, on Iraq, you know what? The president opposed Iraq because he knew it was an inchoate mission with unplanned for consequences, unbudgeted for costs, and we saw the result of that. And that's why the president undertook the effort that he did with our military leadership to end that war. So we've learned our lessons from that. And so we have a very targeted, narrow mission, and we're asking Congress to be a full partner in that to ensure just that.
What happens if you don't get this approval?
Well, look, I'm not going to engage in any hypotheticals here, but here's what I do believe.
Well, what would the impact of that be?
Well, here's what I do believe, right? I do believe that if Congress wants to hold the Assad regime to account, and if Congress wants to make sure that the Iranians, Hezbollah, and others understand that you cannot have greater operating space to pursue weapons of mass destruction like the nuclear program in Iran, then they have to vote yes for this resolution.
But what if the president has drawn a red line? The United States' credibility has been put on the line when he does that. What if Congress doesn't give him the authority to go ahead? How will that play around the world to our friends and allies?
Well, I think that we are going to make every effort to make sure that Congress, and this is not an empty exercise, Bob, we are working this very aggressively, having already briefed more than 100 members to make sure that they have all the information that they need and that they can make this decision, because if they want to hold Assad to account for carrying out this attack using poison gases, chemical weapons to kill upwards of 400 children, then they have to vote yes on that resolution.
Do you think you will get this?
I have every confidence that we'll be able to get this, because I know that Congress will want, having seen those videos, having seen the intelligence which no one rebuts, I believe Congress will want to support this resolution.
Mr. McDonough, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Bob.